close your eyes. It's time for sleeping. The sun has left the sky, and every shadow grows and the air gets cold and the sunlight fades. But the moon is smiling down on us and the summer colors around us gray. The stars are shining, soaking up the sky, my darling. Could you sing, sing, sing a lullaby? Come lay your head down. Today you've had enough. Just try to dream now. Try to dream of every sparkle on the water in the ocean waves, and every feathered wing and diamond ring, and all those other fancy things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The stars are shining, soaking up the sky, my darling. Would you sing, sing, sing a lullaby? I'm trying to calm your crying eyes, sweet darling. Would you sing, sing, sing a lullaby? Stars shining, soaking up the sky. Oh, sweet darling, would you sing, sing, sing a lullaby? I'm trying to calm your crying eyes, my sweet darling. Would you sing, sing, sing a lullaby? Would you sing, sing, sing a lullaby? Sing, sing, sing. Would you sing a lullaby, my sweet darling? Would you sing, sing?
The past century has wrought innumerable changes in the way the human race does life. Almost everything has changed, from our modes of transportation to the way we educate our children. Nothing has seen more change than the multifaceted realm of communication. We have gone from simple, face-to-face communication to a complex web of social media, digital communication, and confusion in a mere century. However, some things don't change, such as the way we learn to communicate. As humans, we still learn one step at a time, growing from the child who, in astonished awe, realizes that he can connect with another human and make his needs known on the most basic level, to the man, wise and full of years, who's learned the steps to the dances of the most deep and intimate interpersonal communication. Relationships and interactions with other people are life, and communication is the conduit. The amazing thing is, people in all these sundry stages walk the earth simultaneously. Communication is not exclusive to those who are like us, but with all the varied beauty that God designed to not only be together, but weave together. Regrettably, too often this beauty is missed, and generations who could learn from one another choose uniformity instead. Intergenerational seeks to examine how communication affects each generational culture so that we might better understand and therefore learn from and love one another.
Oh, a lot of changes. Technology, of course, is the big thing now, and it's changed from more or less, well, just face to face. We didn't even have a telephone when I was a child, and I didn't have a phone in the house until I was 13, so it was all just more or less face to face, having to go somewhere to meet someone when you wanted to see them.
Well, when I was a child, we didn't have all the technology we have now with cell phones, those types of things. Communication was, I remember having a party line where our phone was shared with another person. So in that way, communication has changed drastically in that we have such mobile devices to do our communication on. But when I was a child, we didn't have anything like that. I watched black and white TV, first TV I ever watched.
Well, like computers have become all the rage, and when I was a little kid, a phone was just a rotary dial thing that was in my house, and we weren't really allowed to touch it. So since then, technology has really come around to everybody in this room has a cell phone in their pocket.
Oh man, communication has changed a lot since I was a child. There's texting. I remember you just talk. When I was younger, I just talked, and then I started using the phone, and then I started using IM. Those were good days. And then came Zynga and MySpace and Facebook and texting and all these different types of communication.
When I was little, we really didn't have cell phones or anything. And I remember when I got into the second grade that my friend got this little Firefly phone, and it was just like an emergency cell phone. You couldn't text on it or anything. And then, nowadays there's, because back then we had AIM. Now we have, instant messaging. You can pretty much get anyone like that on contact, unless you're in a dead zone. We have communication in faster forms now than we did. And I think it's kind of changed us on how I feel like this isn't the word, but perceive things, because I think we kind of take it for granted, fast communication, because, we had to take time and find each other, and I think we used to have a lot more, face-to-face communication when I was little.
It's changed mostly by, it went from, cell phones to smartphones, and it's gone from little laptops to huge computers. And it's also gone, sign language, it has really spread, and lots of kids almost everyone knows how to write and communicate like that.
I play the computer. Dad and Mom let me play half an hour a day. And I sometimes talk on the phone with Grandma.
People are much more media driven today, visual, so your communication would need to involve a kind of presentation. I would use probably the 1960 presidential debates as an example. I was 2 years old when that took place, where Nixon lost on the television but won on the radio. Visually he was poor presenter, but on the radio people thought that he won the election. People thought he won the debate over Kennedy. And I'd say today that has probably flip-flopped, that how you look is going to be the most important thing.
Well, when I was a child, we had a party line and for a telephone, so you had to wait to get on the phone until someone else was done, and if they wanted to stay on there all day, or you could listen to their conversations. But now they've got, of course, everything: Facebook, Twitter, texting, cell phones, so it's changed quite a bit.
When you look at Facebook 20 times a day, and you always have to have the most recent information available to you, even so we saw a post, let's say 10 minutes ago. Well, now that's old news. 10 minutes ago is old news, and you have to see what is just now occurring and what's happening. And we're getting to the point where we're so dictionaries and libraries and going and checking a different card, doing research. All of that has changed. So communication from the media, from the news, news channels, this world now is much smaller because it is now heard throughout the entire nation, where before it really took a lot more of technology to push the information out. But you can go onto Google. Google in itself as a word, our dictionary has changed. Because all of these words have surfaced that, again, 10, 20, 30 years ago, we would have never even thought, well, what do you mean by Google? What does that mean? If I need to do a research paper, I need to go to the library and do research. Well, that's changing also. Kids nowadays they're not learning, a lot of the things that we had been taught, about how to get the information rather than just going on the computer to get it. So over-communicating can be, very across the board with just getting the information right now, always, all the time, and that, there's really not a longer process to get the information.
Over communication, it might to some people be coercion or manipulation. It might mean that. To others, it might be somebody who's possibly insecure and getting their message across. Or to others, it may come across as maybe you're passionate about something and you want your audience to understand, and so you're repeating something over and over again. I suppose it could mean any one of those things.
It means you just talk a lot and you're really excited all the time, and you just, or if you write letters to your friends, you just keep writing on and on and on and on, and get like 5 pieces of paper.
Over communication. Like communicating too much? Over communicating. I mean, I don't know if you can communicate too much, but that's what it sounds like. Maybe, I don't know, because I just feel like we're lacking so much in communicating things in every area. So I don't know if that exists.
I think over-communication is when we almost talk ourselves to death. We have a habit of, at least I do, I have a habit of continually talking and rambling on, and then people will just be like, hey, you should be quiet now. I think over-communication is, I think we can text too much, honestly, sometimes, because I think when you start texting to a point, and like I said earlier with, my generation, we like to abbreviate things and we're kind of lazy. I think over-communication, in a sense, can be when you talk lazy too much, you can make that a normal thing, and I think it's a good thing to hold on to, actual literature values and, know how to write a paragraph correctly, know how to write an essay correctly, know how to write a sentence correctly, know your grammar.
It's when people are talking about stuff that doesn't really matter.
I think if I were to interpret over communicating as having too many types of communication, if it's that interpretation, then yes.
Have even had known that before. What I just described with that, always being on Facebook, always knowing what's going on, getting, knowing what is going on in the circle of people that you normally would not have. So you not only know what you're doing, what your family's doing, what your friends are doing, but what your friends' friends are doing, which we never would have even had known that before.
I think so. I think absolutely our generation, the younger generation nowadays, is probably on a whole over communicates. People post things online, on their chats, things that really aren't important to let anybody else know, but they feel like they have to communicate it because the ability is there to do it. So I think definitely that this culture is over communicating a lot.
Well, and then to me, I think they text too much, like I was saying about my granddaughter. I think they do too much. Some of them, now I don't want to be too general about that, because at church, when we're at church, we all turn off our phones, and so we communicate pretty much the way we always have at church. And but I don't know how when they get out from church. I know we all turn on our phones as soon as we get out, so I suppose they get back to the texting and all.
Yes, I think maybe they have, because we're so chained, this generation is so chained to their smartphones and their computers and their system of communicating in abbreviations and stuff that they almost can't communicate face to face. I've seen especially youth that don't seem to function well face to face, and they're texting the whole time that they're talking to you, but they're not even using full words in their texting, and the grammar and stuff that they use is just terrible. And I've seen that. It's not everyone, but there's a certain portion of this new generation that really is not good at communication, actually connecting with people, expressing themselves. So, yeah.
I am looking at that question in a definition of technology versus communication. Technology, yes. I think that maybe our teenagers and our young adults have too much technology, too many gadgets, too many playthings. But communication takes on more than one form, and it comes in more than just a text or just a Facebook message. Communication comes through body language, it comes through eye contact, communication comes through verbal skills, and those are not things that are being enhanced by all of this technology.